Before we get started, if anybody wishes to address the board during public comment, you have a sheet that you need to sign in on at the front table. Where's all the kids? I don't know.
It's a new semester.
That's a good one. It's a short agenda. It's like,
I
don't think the kids ever look.
I know.
Yeah. And then they get out.
All right, we please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone's ready, we're going to talk about the budget for 25-26. This is our second budget meeting of the season. So with this second draft of the budget, again, most lines have been rolled over from previous years and scrutinized, based on contracts. Salary lines have to be increased, based on the contracts that they're in, teachers, and non-instructional staff. Those non-budgeted items from 24, 25 to current year have been added in. We went over those in depth last year, so those are now in our budget for next year. Administrator and supervisor requested items were considered. Some of these items were under consideration have made it into the budget, some of them haven't. And then we have just actual or more accurate estimates for a lot of major items. We've got our preliminary health and dental insurance estimates. Those will be later on in the presentation. As we go into annual reviews, we have some more accurate special ed placements. The other day, just spoke with our fiscal advisors, so now we've got our preliminary debt estimates for next year. Angelina and I just attended a BOCES meeting where we went over BOCES services for next year. So those now we have actual hard numbers, not just estimates. And then, workers' comp, TRS, VRS, and then we're able to do our tax gap calculation, which is due at the end of the month. So the budget to budget, as of today, it looks like a very substantial increase from last meeting, and that was really due to a large increase in debt service. But that's been offset with revenue, so there's actually no impact to the budget side. It's just that it's a large increase, but like I said, it's offset with revenue, so it's not actually having an actual budgetary. Does that make sense?
What revenue?
So part of it comes from the increase in the tax gap because of those numbers, and then part of it's capitalized interest. And that allows it to that increase be offset. So looking at this because of the new debt coming on for the project. Because we're just gonna have to take out debt next year to fund the project.
So am I correct in saying something's falling off of
So next year, that's kind of the issue. So next year is not when it's going to hit us for being a tax impact project. It's going to be the following. Is when we're going to feel that impact of that tax, not that tax neutral project. This is what's coming. So looking at the major 25-26 budget items, of course, our contractual salary increases, which are done during negotiations. Health insurance premiums are really the piece that I wanted to focus on here. Our preliminary increases from Benetech. You can see these are substantial. Our Highmark plan is looking at a 16% increase. With that is the Caremark RX at 8.7% increase. And then CDPHP at 13.55% increase. And these are really the biggest increases I believe I've seen since I've been here now on my seventh budget season, I believe. And of course, these are not sustainable numbers. This is not something I think that's just, happening to our district. This is happening throughout just a consortium we're in, but out private too, and other school districts and other consortiums. I have a friend in another consortium. He said, we're looking at about 15% increases. So, yeah.
One of the things that we've noticed, which just compounds this issue, is that we've had more of our employees take the plan and or take the family plan because of the quality of the plan compared to some of the things in private. So for example, I've always had my husband's, and then that got so costly that it made more sense to come on ours. So we've seen a pretty significant uptick of people taking that, which means that's a huge difference between, what's the family plan now, $30,000 or something like that. So if they're single or weren't taking it at all, and now you've got that. And most of our employees contribute 20% of that, but again, that means 8% of $30,000+ is on there. So I will note that over the last few years, the health insurance has gone up substantially. Like, it was still the biggest cost driver. This is like way higher even than that. I mean, think about it. Like, and I hate to be nervous, but I'm not convinced that that doesn't have a chance of going a little higher. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that it won't. But again, we are in what's considered the high bucket, and it literally, as part of the health insurance consortium, we look at what are the cost drivers, and there are several cases of cancer, and if you have a biologic or a very specialty treatment with injectable or something like that, the cost is like millions and millions of dollars. Eventually, it goes on to the trust.
And we do have, retirees that contribute 0%. So, that's obviously a huge cost too, but they will be transitioning out. Now, most of our retirees, when they retire, contribute 50%. So that will help. Like right now, we still have a lot that contribute at 0%. So when it's increasing 60%, that cost is all on us. We bear that full cost. So that's tough.
And they're living longer, so they're staying on there a little bit longer. And I will note, because I think this could be confusing, the increase for CDPHP is less than the increase for Highmark, but Highmark is still a cheaper product than CDPHP at this point.
Very close, but
yeah. Highmark has really started to increase by far and away cheaper, and it is not anymore.
And then I think a big piece just to note is transportation and O&M. Transportation is pretty cut and dry. We know where we're going, where we have to transport. So I said to, I sat down with O&M and transportation. I said, guys, can you think of anything? Is there any routes that you can, on transportation side, is there any routes that you can try to condense or, between where these places are that we go to and start times and times? They really felt there was, no movement, unfortunately, on that end. So,
do you think we can take the 2 contracted runs back in-house?
So we did. So on this agenda, we do have a trainee. So we are hoping that person will be able to get trained, and now we can bring in one of those runs. So in the current 25-26 budget, so this current year we have 2 contracted runs out. I only put in for 1 contracted. So I'm very hopeful.
Lots of savings there.
About 100,000 each run, contracted run. I think one contracted run, 1 full.
And their prices are going up quite a bit too, just for cost of gas.
And we get aid on, we get the transportation aid on it, so it's not, but then it's out of our hands if a problem happens, Then of course, VOTEC, we've got just more kids that are going to VOTEC programs, that new STEM program. Currently have 8 kids there, this program. Student needs. Student needs have just changed. So we brought on, different employees to kind of help with those student needs, but I don't think that's going away. So that's also added some costs to our budget. So looking at those requested budget items from last time that have either been kept in the budget or not. So the red items have been removed from the current 2025-26 budget that were requested. Then the ones that are in black are currently still in that 25-26.
The one that Mr. Goodenough will speak to this, the one that I do want to point out is the very strong request from the instructional staff about the MTSS coordinator and AIS. That is certainly, I'm very much supportive of that position. It's just a matter of finding the funds for it right now. So we're not in a position right now where we can do something, but I just want that on the forefront of everybody's mind because that's legit.
So this is just a high budget overview. Right now, as you can see, really that big increase is in benefits. And then on the debt service piece, it is in the interfund transfers or transfer of debt service, but like I said, that's offset. State aid highlights. I know last meeting we were looking at only about a 7.4 $1,000 increase based on the current formula. The governor surprised us all and changed a few things. She replaced the 2000 census poverty data with the most recent census poverty data, which makes our school, which that data shows that our district is poorer than it was back in 2000, which helped us. And it increased our aid to just over 400,000. So 409,000 for a 5.58% increase. So that was pretty substantial.
One of the challenges that we have is that health insurance increases just gobble every
Yeah. So she also guaranteed, because we were safe harmless at one point, we kind of teeter on it. So she guaranteed a minimum of 2% increase in foundation for all districts, whether if you are a safe harmless district or not, which is good for them. And then just some other things that she has, came up with is universal school meals. We already have that here, but she's, she wants that for the whole state. And then smart device ban, and we're not exactly sure how that's going to roll out yet, but I think she's saying that she'll give money, but we've yet to see like what exactly that's.
My suspicion is it's going to be exclusively towards some kind of pouch device container, because I have been nonstop solicited by vendors of those things. So that tells me they have some advanced knowledge of what that is.
Then looking at the tax cap, so the inflation factor for our tax cap is 2%. So that's that 2% you always hear about, that the tax can go up 2%, which is not true. It's just a piece of this calculation. And so for this year, it was 2%, of course, because the low inflation has been pretty high. Our tax-based growth factor, and that's based on county we're in and like how much it's growing, was the 1.0075, which is kind of average when you look at numbers of other, districts. So our tax cap is 3.55 for 2025, 26, and that's an increase of about 535,000.
Locations on this?
And then looking at other revenue, I've already talked about this a bit, but Winesco student enrollment has dropped over the last few years. For those who don't know, Winesco is a choice after 8th grade for high school, whether they want to send their students to our district, or they want to send Greenbush, Troy, Tech Valley, Haverhill Park. And unfortunately, that enrollment to our district has dropped, so that means that we do not get the tuition from Winesco. But fortunately, we have had 2 new special ed enrollments that have boosted that tuition, but this could change really at any time. Parents' tuition paying students has actually increased. Mostly, I believe it's from students from Berlin School District that have decided that they want their students to come here. Maybe the distance is far, maybe they offer better things. So
I actually had a parent reach out from Joe Stewart, and a bunch of kids wanted to tour, which was interesting. So I'm very I want to go pick them up for school lessons. I'll go get you. We'll do a full tour.
So one of the good things is interest revenue has been really significant. But again, that's really dependent on the Fed and the economy. Could change at any point. So right now, I think for 25, 26, I budgeted in the revenue piece a pretty significant, interest revenue. But if something were to change, that would be a hole that we would have in our revenue. We've had years when we've only made $20,000 interest revenue. There's no interest, but right now we're doing very, very well. Several hundred thousand a year well. And then of course we'll have to plan that use of reserves and fund balance as it happens. So currently the budget gap is 1.65 million, based on going over the tax cap. And then if we were to use $1 million of fund balance, that gap would be $650,000. So really we have to consider all these things when looking, where we're moving forward. To our taxpayer support going above the cap. How much fund balance do we want to use? Current year, we're looking at using several hundred thousand of that fund balance that we appropriated. So once you start using fund balance and you're not taking revenue in, or you're not making cuts, you're going to keep using that fund balance. And then once that fund balance is gone, it's gone unless you do something to make it up. We've been looking at staffing levels, enrollment, class sizes, what programs are mandated, what's not, and then of course our outside program programs like CTE, Tech Valley, Hudson Valley Staff Program. And these are just some potential tax increases, and what they would be over the current year.
I will, because I know this is important. The outside program enrollment is always tricky because they bill us on a 5-year rolling average. So even if we said nobody's going, we would still have bill. So, and if those kids were all come back in house, we would have to hire somebody, put them in classes likely. So sometimes it's not as simple as it might seem. We are continuing on with our, I'll say, limitations of Tech Valley. I spoke to the principal about that. They're very well aware. We do have a handful of kids that are in Tech Valley who do not currently transport, which is a huge expense for us. So now it's just part of the technical average, just like the CTE.
This just looks at our elementary enrollment, what the teacher student ratio is. So fund balance, we're looking at fund balance. This will be appropriated for this current year. We're projecting to use approximately 400,000 right now. Going to be updating that shortly. Of course, it's got a $50,000 bill. Did not expect for a portable wastewater treatment plant that unfortunately has some issues.
One of our challenges of being candid is a lot of the things that are in the capital project are just failing right before the capital project. So
unfortunate.
the fuel tank, the wastewater treatment plant, the cameras, the heaters, the HVAC, the boilers, all of that is included in the capital project. But you need heat now, you have to have the wastewater treatment plant, and the wastewater treatment plant is really tricky. It's so highly regulated by C, etc., that it's not like, just don't worry about it. They have to come in and the engineering services came in, and Kevin just told me today, I just fell off my chair, 650 flies up to 200,000. For, I don't even know what.
Like the pumping, the pumps. So if we look at fund balance, this is where we're at currently. $800,000. So if you use 400, think about if you use $400,000 this year, let's say, $800,000 really can't be touched because it's in a capital reserve. It's for future capital projects. I'm sorry. This kind of gives you, what we really want to do is look at this and say, okay, that's kind of the trend of us using it. How much do we feel comfortable using? Because, like I said, once we start using it, unless we get into more revenues or we make cuts, then we're just going to keep doing it.
I will make one point. I think it's a good one to make because people often say, well, why would you do a capital project? If there's some instructional things that are concerned. If you don't do a capital project, then you end up with large unplanned for bills that don't get aid. So when we go through and have a capital project and fix it, we're going to get aid back on almost all of our projects.
And it's not general fund money.
Yeah. Yes. So I can see people approaching like that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? But in reality, you have to fix the roofs. You have to fix the pipes. You have to fix the HVAC. And it makes more sense to do it in a planful way where you get aid back over time. And it's more of a level cost for the staff or for the taxpayers. That being said, we have had an uptick just in the last, say, 2 years of, the fuel tank leaking. It's been here for 20-something years. This year it decides to wastewater treatment goes untouched. This year it starts to fail. So just some interesting things, and not even things that are like general maintenance. It's our folks who work on the wastewater treatment plant, our custodians and maintenance who do the fuel tank that's outside. Just aged out.
And again, you can't use the capital fund dollars for things like salaries and stuff.
No.
Correct.
Right. I'm just
No, but
making sure that's clear.
it's a very good point though, because people will ask, like, why do you got money here? Why can't you use that? Is that your reserves are your market very particular way they have to use as the voters intended.
Well,
And I
you
would-
could, you could use the money that's in the reserves, capital for a capital project.
Yes, like $800,000.
Yeah, that 800 you could use to pay that too.
No, that cannot.
Because the bonus.
Yeah, that has to be used for the actual like capital project. Yeah, and you have to use unfortunately for this one, which stinks too.
No, that's a good distinction. We do have, sometimes you can do an emergency thing, but it's very complicated.
And they didn't feel like our insurance company didn't feel like this would have been, and SCI didn't feel like this would have met the conditions.
Is there any
way that, like, is it just services in that 50,000, or is there something in there that we had to replace that now instead of that is gonna take, like, that's gonna lessen,
Most of it was having like April Park staff that had to come
right, so
from there, like
service.
every day, or every, whatever it was,
No,
every
but
lot.
to your point though, when we go through, and this is probably a good point that we have our next facility meeting, anything that we're accelerating for whatever reason, then we're able to amend the capital project around to
Fit
make sure
other stuff,
yeah, like cameras, for
Yeah,
example.
cameras are like a big.
Is it, what is the camera gonna cost us?
No,
Yeah.
The whole bill,
yeah.
okay.
And I'm sure Kyle will tell you. The cameras are not,
They're not
they're not,
they got upgrades.
The challenge with
they're not cheap.
the challenge with
Nothing's
those
cheap.
kind of things is the technology is very outdated. Like we haven't even bought them, and the technologies are moved on, so they don't last like they used to last. And you almost have to plan on replacing them in 5 years or whatever, which is really unfortunate.
The one thing I will say is like that reserve amount minus the 800,000, the board does have the authority to say, like at one point, we had a lot of money, I'm not sure why, from before I got here, we had a lot of money in an unemployment reserve that I'm like, this is just crazy. We would never touch this. So we moved it out of there. So we do have, you guys do have the authority as board to resolution say, hey, that one's still too high. Let's move it in our, just unreserved fund balance. So we do have that, like, because when it's in a reserve, it has to be just for that specific thing, but we do have bigger room to do resolutions. to do that. That's the other.
So one of the ones that this board did, I would say about 9 years ago, was we felt that we were over funded in tax tertiaries. We didn't see an impending tax tertiary that way. But it's one of those things, it could bite you if you end up with something and you haven't fully funded.
Yeah,
So,
like we did a few years ago, we did it on, when I was here, maybe done tax tertiary. As long as you do it by the law, you do it when they're like, there's certain timing issues of when you can do it, and like you have to have the resolution.
no, but fiscal advisors would though, or financial planners can opine on that, not the auditors.
Oh, no, the auditors check that.
But they check it, but the fiscal advisors could give you
Oh, yeah,
opinions. They would,
probably Honeywell, yeah, I think does that.
like financial advice, yes.
They would say it's like, I guess, it's like
Much like
education.
with the insurance council, whoever, with the folks, I have a question on, also for, and, tax cap. For the next meeting, March 6th, we have a breakdown of what the last 10 years for those and the percentage difference.
I want to make sure I understand. Are you talking about how
Well,
many people
ask
said
by-
yes?
How many, the total budget of, or how many said yes, and I know it usually runs like 60 to 70%.
What the input.
Gotcha.
Can you also include the tap? Cap was that your two for the cap? I'm sorry to ask for more, but
No,
we're getting
no.
it. Yeah, we might as well look
Oh,
at it
it's,
all.
that's, yeah. Okay, so you want the tax cap, what it was that year. The amount of voted yes, the voted no, and the total budget number,
No, with the total
Passing.
percent.
Budget.
So
just
the
the budget increase.
budget increase, tax cap, and then the vote. Yes and no.
Yeah.
10 years.
Anything else?
All right. So we need a motion for the meeting minutes, for the meeting minutes. Kevin, Leah, all in favor? Motion carries. And that brings us to the superintendent update.
So good evening, everyone. As you can see, we're spending most of our time attending to capital project and things related to the budget, so that's kept us quite busy. But there's a handful of things that are going on. I don't want to steal the thunder of our principals, but we're starting to wrap up the end of our winter season, which is gone by quite fast. On a really positive note, lunch. Director of our lunch program has started, and I get outstanding feedback. Earlier this week at the PTSA meeting, a lot of the PTSA members were commenting about just seeing some changes and some different availability of things. In particular, one stood out to me today. I believe she's made provisions for gluten-free bagels and allergen-free bagels, which I think is really just a nice touch, and parents and kids really liked it. We're going to start ramping up for recruitment of staff. My big concern is on computer special education. We are not alone. Almost every school that I can think of is looking for at least one special educator. So it's a very, very small group of people that are interested in coming around. And unfortunately, they're not coming in at a very low step if they are coming. So, we want to make sure that we hire well for that. Those are our most vulnerable populations. We want to make sure we get the greatest staff for that. And as I mentioned in our earlier meeting, I'm going to do my best to get 2 people to come to our meetings in March. One, Michael Loss, who is the Director of State Aid Planning, and can speak to our state aid numbers, some of the governor's budget, and then also our architects, our construction managers at a facilities meeting. So once I see their schedules, one will go to one meeting, one will go to the other, and we can start to finalize things a little bit more on both of those ends. And I will start looking at Mr. Rizzo. So,
Hi, good evening. I'm Kurt here. How are you? Just a couple updates. One is I wanted to thank Kim Brunel. Last day is tomorrow as our MTSS coordinator. She's done a fine job in her district, really supporting not only MTSS but also the professional development growth for our teachers as well. So wishing Kim the very best. And also congratulations, Rachel, to my left here. It's filled her shoe big shoes when time comes. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to have the Regents stay in January, which became that support program for our students. Again, trying to be creative, more fun, and we're going to support our students. We did have the vast majority of students were invited into the building, and get support that's really helped them get caught up in your appointment with teachers. You plan or instructor plan request of you for June, similar things last year. We have an academic support date at the end of the year. And we have Regents exams on June 10th or so, and run a full day of same schedule, which is good. That really prevents and mitigates failures and summer school program, which is in our budget, as well as summer apex, those things, so the more students can get in here is competitive, those measures. So thank you for that. We also have to provide an update. I was with Ryan, I say this every year, every quarter, I guess.
I'm excited.
Academic eligibility. Ryan with the committee for that part of it, and just want to give an update on it where we're at. Actually, some really good data here. So currently for this last go round, we had no 6th graders. At the beginning of the year, we had a couple early in the year, so that's a good sign. We don't want 6th graders. Of all grade levels, 6th graders. No 6th graders, no 7th graders. We have not 9 8th graders currently ineligible. 5 9th graders. 9 10th graders, 3 11th graders, and 6 12th graders. What I wanted to really point out from all that, because that's kind of just standalone data, was of all the students, progress report 2 who are academically ineligible, none of them are repeat offenders, so to speak. So we're seeing new students pop on there, which is good, and we're seeing that students are working towards getting off it. In some cases, it's difficult because they don't what's like motivation. But we do, chase them down, remind them. Communications, I have to get Courtney Keane in our middle school office. Shout out, she managed a lot of this for myself, for Miss Doran, in terms of the letters and communication to students and whatnot. But it's definitely working. The kids are coming down to her and they get the sheet signed off. So I don't see a lot of it, what's happening unless I need to most of the time, which is really helpful. I also want to give a shout out to thank you to Chad as well, our AD. One of the things that Courtney gave me the notes here was just positive feedback from the coaches, and they're really supportive and really helping with this on board. And it seems like they're understanding the policy now in terms of what it's meant to do and the spirit of it. So as we go into February break, we'll recall that we didn't want to have kids going to breaks being punished or carried over. So tomorrow is the last day for the eligibility week, and then those students will be ineligible for break. They come back after the break, they're on probation. Every Friday they do pull the sheets. So far, the results in the monitor and you have more updates on that.
And can you refresh my memory? How does it work from season to season?
In terms of student carryover,
Yeah, the carryover piece.
we talked about this year, we didn't have any carryover last year in policy, but we do have in the policy carryover students that, could carry over to the next school year. If they,
Yeah, it's pretty high threshold.
So seeing that a lot of kids are dropping off, hopefully we won't have too many carryover students. If they are on carryover, it's more of a monitoring to start the year. So we'll share with teachers a list of kids who last year were 150%. It's a way to support them early on. It's really to get them to be supportive, identify students coming in. Certainly AAS is starting the year with kids early on and support for the school year. So
And like promised, this is just some anecdotal quick information. We will be meeting as a committee to go over the pros, cons, any tweaks that we think, but I would agree with Ken, it does feel a little more positive, from my perspective. It's just not as, not getting these desperate calls and cries and things like that. Kids are attaining, getting off of that, which is great.
Mr. Rizzo, quick question. A couple of meetings ago, you had mentioned the stretch. What, 3 weeks? Yeah. For a second chance, I was wondering how well that went, or if you had any.
I have the data. If you don't mind, I bring it to the next board meeting.
Absolutely. No, it was just a question. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have it too, I think Clyde can also.
I was just wondering if it was positive.
I
or
can
not,
tell
that's
you
all.
definitely.
Oh, definitely positive.
Okay, great.
I just don't want to say a number for it, but
No, that's all I was looking. You don't need to bring.
One thing, that we did hear at curriculum assessment is that the kids are struggling to finish on time. And I think there's a variety of reasons for that. That's something that, we'll look at as a big picture. What is making them struggle getting through the length of that exam? Test fatigue, writing, what's that scenario? But overall, it's for a lot of the kids, it gets one written exam out of the way. For some of them, they'll try it again to try to see if they get higher, and others, it's just pressure off their back that they finish it. Right. So it's probably been the best thing done everything.
You got that nice sense that you finished like 3 minutes. So,
This exam was the most successful for short students. We have very few students.
The English staff said they felt absolutely awful doing tests from the kids when obviously they had to, but it's really hard to see somebody working really hard.
so there's great official too, because I didn't see them on the social report. So
They're not on transfer, it should be put on.
it was not, but maybe. No, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I believe what you told me.
I'll verify that.
And kind of just, extend our appreciation to the rest of the faculty that was involved in the policy, because that's a pretty impressive result. I mean, not a single repeat. To your point, means that they're taking in the feedback, they're making the changes, and they're improving. That's impressive.
It also shows the sixth graders, they're not involved as many extracurriculars, we don't have athletics yet, but it shows that they come in, often transition, struggle, but once they start to acclimate to the middle school expectations, which there's definitely a jump from elementary to middle, and that's in every school. And they're starting to get those systems down, so that's nice to see as well, those students.
Do you know if we lost any students that just decided not to play anymore because of their grade?
I don't believe so this year. I have in the past for
Yeah.
some.
I didn't hear that, but I would have to double check. I don't,
Just, what
I do know, I know
if
exactly.
you're saying that they're not
Yeah.
repeaters, but
From the
this
last
is,
go round at least.
right, but this is not, this is not just happening.
Right,
This
right.
is
Clubs,
club
just
numbers.
gonna say
So,
it's
okay.
should
He's still
capture
being
most of
eligible.
what
This
these
time
folks.
last year, we had a three-strike route in the old policies. We had kids who hypothetically then had to come to me for a exception, get out of it. It was, they were double the year, and that was frustrating. Spring sports and whatnot. So now we don't have that anymore.
I'll
And the
double
challenge
check,
I
but I
see
don't
is
think so.
some kids just aren't connected sometimes. They're not involved in anything. So
Yeah.
those kids are tough sometimes to motivate because you're talking about a policy where it's like, well, I don't care. I don't know for what. I don't do any anyways. So
Right.
those are the toughest kids to
Right.
reach sometimes.
And that's what we're concerned with the policy.
Correct. At least the clubs are in there, so that should capture.
Thank you.
I can follow that.
Okay, good.
Mrs. Up?
Good evening. I believe after you went
that's grades 3 through 8. That went very smoothly. I'd say our system is ready to handle all tested grades in the computer-based format. Students, especially on our younger and patients, are able to kind of familiarize themselves with a brand new way of taking an assessment. So the feedback that I've received from teachers so far is positive. Absolutely, it will be ready for spring. Just this week, we coordinated a special presentation with the School Mental Health Resource Center at ABES, which is an acronym for the Mental Health Association of New York State. And the presenter named Zach Sears came to us at 5:30 p.m. last night, did a presentation for parents just ahead of the PTSA regular business meeting on mental health and wellness 101 for parents. This is a service that they offer that is no cost to schools. They're very easy to work with, very friendly and accommodating. Again, the presentation that they provided for us was kind of a 101 introductory level for parents, but they can accommodate information on all sorts of mental health areas that are applicable to students. It wasn't as well attended as I would have hoped, but it's definitely something that I think was a nice start and that I pursue again. That organization to support us, supporting our students. And thank you to the PTSA for allowing us to feedback that presentation on the regular business meeting. Services department provided like refreshments for parents, so thank you to them as well. And our PTSA also supported us most recently in running Scribble this year, where all of our faculty and staff, K-12, was treated to a nice lunch from the Sizzle Squad and all sorts of treats to invite parents. And law enforcement appreciation lunch is becoming an annual event where the PTSA coordinates some time in our school buildings during our lunch blocks for parents and guardians and law enforcement to come in, have a special lunch this year again provided by our services department, and also spend some time having lunch with their child in the cafeteria. That is very well received again this year. For PTSA. Since we last met, we also had our personal safety lessons for students in grades K-12 that are supported by St. Peter's Health Partners. They're doing presentations on personal safety. One component of personal safety that's now covered in their curriculum is cyber safety. And as an offshoot of those discussions, we learned through some student sharing of some apps and websites that our children are using that are certainly new to me and of a certain level of concern. So with Mrs. Colini's help as a part of her internship work, we dug a little bit deeper into these particular sites that students are naming, and we're working on parent-friendly communication on some sites that parents like me might not have been that they exist, but might want to alert them to their existence and the fact that our students themselves are reporting that they're being used and why that might be a concern in terms of personal safety. So stay tuned for that correspondence. Gotta learn about these things before we can tell others, inform them accurately about. And today, we were one of the many districts that did not have a 2-hour delay today. But the big benefit of that was our board members were able to attend a very special field trip today at the University of Albany, and they had a blast. It was their education appreciation day. So they were treated to a special basketball event and came back happy and safe and sound. So that was a little highlight of our this weekend.
Just as an aside, all of our buses ran on time.
Yes, they did.
Not at all. No, actually, for the first time, people thanked me for not having a hard delay because of the field trip, but that's not what I did. Community, do you have anything?
Yeah, special education, I mean, it's kind of been talked around a little bit. This is, getting ready for our busiest season in special education where we have our typical annual reviews where we go over every student's, IEP plan. Look at what their projections and schedules are for next year and programming. Definitely we've had an influx this year of students moving into the district, so when we talk about the budgetary, implications of that, that's absolutely true. And looking at that for next year, we're looking at programming and placements. That's a big conversation. So we're actively gearing up for that, in the middle of that right now. So that's taking quite a bit of time. I'll also piggyback a little bit with what Teresa was saying. That has been helpful to some students who are at risk of not being able to graduate with a diploma and looking at more of that CDAS track. It does give them a chance to take it, look at maybe where they were struggling a little bit, and then attempt to take it again. With special ed students, there is a safety net that can apply for certain credentials for graduation. So having the ability to try some of those in January and then potentially take again to know how much they need in order to qualify for that safety net can be very helpful to some of our students. So definitely glad for that opportunity.
That brings us to the updates. All that data, register, sure. Do you have anything else?
Yes. So a quick one on curriculum. So we had our curriculum meeting on Tuesday. Okay, this week is long. And I only say that because I know Ken and Kelly were here pretty much from 7 to 8. It felt like, or 7 to 9. That's probably normal. It was a long day. But we got updates from math program heads, both elementary and secondary levels. Science, there was a music update. I missed that one, but just as we did the last time we met, the passion is clear. Teachers are really looking for ways for students to be successful. Offer different electives, but also making sure that we're not causing folks to get disinterested in the more challenging courses, which is the topic of conversations, making sure we have the right balance there. Mr. Olson delivered a impassioned, I will say complete, for an MTSS coordinator full-time, which I know we talked about in the budget a bit, but unfortunately, that kind of position is more and more needed with some of the challenges we have in our school systems and the unique complexities that our student population represents. So as we talk about budget, as we talk about what all this means from a financial perspective, it's certainly important to consider the fact that everything that's on the table is it's programs, it's salaries, it's social emotional health support, etc. So it's not any fluff. And I know unfortunately I walk away from the curriculum committees sometimes with both positivity and hearing just the passion from the administration and the teachers and everyone else, but also frustration that these things have to be so difficult to get done because resources are what they are. So thank you for everyone that's doing everything you're doing because it's certainly appreciated.
What is that position, the MTS, you're saying? Can you just tell me what that is?
I'm gonna let Mrs. O, she'll say it in the best way possible.
So MTSS is an acronym that stands for Multi-Tiered System of Supports. And you'll hear that here, you'll hear it we have it's referenced in federal law and education. So what a multi-tiered system of supports means is a way of delivering instruction to all students, picking up the instructional framework in terms of tiers. So at tier 1, that's our universal tier, that's the core instruction that all students get. Universal tier will just universally be available to all students, K through 12. Tier 2 means this is a group of students that needs some targeted. So maybe we're noticing instructional gap widening, reading after behavior, and we need to meet a few times in special groups to work on that skill to kind of catch up. if the child is responding to that tier of intervention at a sufficient rate to close that gap, we need to talk about intensifying the intervention at tier 3, which is happening daily, either individually or in a very, very small group. And from there, we hope that that is enough to close that gap and maybe be released to a tier 2 and or tier 1 level of support. If it's not sufficient in closing the gap for that student, we might be suspecting that there's an underlying disability, for example. So we might be working with the parent to take the next step to involve special education to make sure the students
So this position is someone who will oversee all this.
oversee that whole, because it's a system of instruction. So, it really, yeah, it's coordinating the systems level work and then the specific position that Ryan was talked about at our assessment council meeting. Would also involve a direct component where that person comes all the time of the day between the intervention groups.
But right now, you guys all kind of like collectively work together to.
We do, which we do very well, we work together very well, but yeah, the coordination piece is important, so that came up. And
if I
could also add a little piece too with, I was part of the committee for FTSS, and that's been one of my internship projects. We also got some clarification from the state ed department that there's a framework in place, but MTSS has not been mandated. So that also means that there's a funding component that's also not provided by the state. So while it is highly encouraged for all districts to have an MTSS system, it is not funded by the state. So when we're talking about this particular kind of position and you're marking funds for it, that's not coming from the state funding.
And worth noting that while it's a guideline, especially the tiering system, and this, like, no matter how you cut it, like the reality of the requirements to offer the right level of service to the students remains. So you could call it tier A, B, C, D, E, and F. The needs don't change. The need for coordination doesn't change. And unfortunately, to Rachel's point, it's not funded.
So like, push it, have
It's a good job. That's
Yeah, they do a
sometimes.
lot of-
Yeah, no, I'm
Shocked.
I'm not shocked for that. In other industries, it's not.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, so that brings us to special ed motion put that on the table. Danielle, Tammy, all in favor? Motion carries. That brings us to curriculum. I'm sorry, personnel. So motion put that on the table, 8.1 through 8.5, consent, Ryan. Kevin? Any discussion?
No, I shared with the board earlier that Rachel was over there is transitioning from one position to another. She's currently has a middle school special education class. She's transitioning to the position making by Brownell, who went back to pursue policies. So Rachel's going to be teaching direct instruction, AIS, and doing some meeting coordination at the middle school.
All in favor? Motion carries. Brings us to the curriculum. 9.1, motion put that on the table. Danielle, Ryan. Discussion.
I think it's worth noting, this was something that was discussed in curriculum assessment. The first one is a recommendation for skill and world language is free and adding a component of the program of curriculum guide for follows. That's the presentation now. Second. Is, by Carl Stiles and Andrews. We think it's a really good addition. We found some gaps in an accelerated program when kids skipped a grade, they actually missed a component of one of the sciences. And what we're going to do during seventh grade for students that are accelerated, we're going to make sure that they have a piece of both of the sciences instead of just the eighth grade science. Therefore, when it gets scaffolded back to the Regents level classes, they'll have that foundation. So it's not going to be a net change to staffing or anything like that, but rather just a reframing of the curriculum.
All in favor? Motion carries. This is the 10.1 through 10.5. Business and finance. Motion put that on the table. Tammy, there you go. Any discussion?
I will just point out, this is always comes up, is our non-district, our non-resident tuition rates. And for the upcoming school year, K through 6 will be $7,300 and 7 through 12 will be $11,957. people often ask where we get that number from, and that's a formula that Stephanie works through that is given to
No,
them.
it just comes from the city.
Oh, just
It's
under
literally a
Which is
report
like
of,
that.
I don't make such a, just based
So
on our numbers.
that looks very different for other schools, so you could have a neighboring school district that has the same, it could be
The more
$1,500.
state aid you receive, the lesser that the tuition fees are. So like Troy, that's
Like
why a lot of
$2,000.
kids from, that's why Wine and Skill may push kids to go to Troy, because it costs them less. So,
A lot less. And that's understandable, yeah. But ours is a formula, so people, will, I've had people call before and just say, why do you choose that number? It's what it would cost a parent so that our taxpayers didn't pick up the dime of educating their child. Because they're not our resident. That makes sense?
So is the change in aid that we got this year make that more work as a result?
I guess it's like that. I mean, you should see the formula.
I don't want to say.
It's like 3 pages long. Maybe my Lowe's can,
Yeah.
but it's long. Yeah.
We had some conversations prior to COVID about whether or not, because we could adopt them and you could make it $100 if you wanted to. That's certainly not recommended, but one of the things we had talked about over time was should we lower that to encourage money? And ultimately we decided that it really wasn't fair to the taxpayers to put that burden on them to bring our exceptions.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Brings us to policy.
Yes. The policy committee had some conversations online. This is just the first reading of policy. I do want to point out a couple of things. One is actually credit Mrs. Fannin. She got this from the University of Missouri. It's called the Current Enrollment Program, and this is because we found, believe it or not, that some people were moving into our district to go to specialized programs. So this policy will prohibit that. So it makes it very clear that you can't move here just to go to a program. Because that district found that as well, like Tech Valley, STEM, that kind of stuff. The other ones are required policies. It's about prevention of school district records, sexual harassment grievances under Title IX, school district records regulation, the student number, which we had for over a decade, and then extreme heat conditions. And we get those recommendations right from school boards. They give us those policies.
So we need a motion to put that through. Brian, Kevin. All in favor? Motion carries. That brings us to public comment.
For public comment, we have Maria
Good evening, my name is Maria Black. My husband David and I live in Lockboro Road. My daughter Claire is in kindergarten. It has come to my attention that the district and board construction manager is investigating co-op pricing for the turf field track phase 1A of capital projects. I'm also aware that in August 2024, the board authorized the use of best value award methodology in the competitive bidding process for purchase contracts. As a parent and taxpayer in this district, I have worked on many site turf co-op agreements, built turf in this area. I put together a booklet, some information of benefits of co-op agreements through Filter. At this time, I would like to respectfully request the opportunity to provide district with the opportunity to provide additional site work pricing through the co-op program offered through Filter. Over the last few years, architects, owners, schools have requested through Filter co-op agreements. They include multiple proposals for site contractors. This provides the owners, you all, with the benefit of a competitive bid for the lion's share of the overall site cost with a approved Filter subcontractor, which we are. Again, this work is under Filter supervision and extended warranty. Last month, my company, small family-owned local business, we participated in a co-op competitive bid for the same type of project with 3 other site work contract bidders, and we were able to save that district 15% of their total project for that portion of the job. And when you're thinking about the amount of money that is being invested in the athletics and the facilities in 2025, it's no small sum. 15% potential savings could be a lot of money. It would be a disservice to the taxpayer dollar not to try to get the best deal with the best qualified contractor who have a vested interest in the community for this specialty work. Do I have a vested interest because this is what I have to do for work? Sure. But my daughter goes to this school. We live in the school. We pay taxes in this district. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be utilizing this. So I would say that I have an extra vested interest in this. Our family of business provides multiple proposals and budgets for capital schools every year at no cost to the districts. We just put together things to let you know if the budget's going to work, where you could potentially save money. And I've said it's no cost to the district. Just last year, we have completed in 2024 11 turf fields, 4 tracks, and 24 tennis courts. We have over 50 fields under our belt. 3 of them were SUNY schools. We've done multiple fields at RPI, the Dome, and the field at CBA. The best way to say it, if you or your children have played on a turf field in the Capital District, we have probably participated in the project in some way. If you'd like, we can request a field trip representative to the workshop or board meeting, provide an in-depth review of pricing with you. But I just want the opportunity, if that is the avenue you are going to pursue, to present a bid for the site work contract. It's going to go to public bid, even better. We'll be happy to do that as well. But I put together some information for all of you who wanted to look at our references, our resume, some of the projects we have done, and I'm always available for conversation anytime.
Thank you.
Would you, need,
Sorry, no other public comment? Okay, great.
executive session for personnel and legal advice?
Okay, so motion to move into executive session, Tammy, Danielle, all in favor? Thank you all for coming.
Over that? Seriously, you just live in line. You're wishing more than I am.
I tried.
I hear congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I was 1 month old. I said, how the heck did that happen? Well, I went in, shared your.
Yeah.